Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly, episode 34. We're talking all about the Nintendo Direct today, and I've also got a pickup that I will go ahead and open as well. Welcome to apparently what is now the new setup for Levels Plus Weekly, this monitor, having stuff here. I just kind of like the format, and considering what we're going to be doing today, it makes sense to have this monitor here. So what we're going to do is I've got some notes. We're going to talk about the Direct as a whole. I think we'll just do kind of a rapid fire thing about all the announcements. You kind of got a sense that if you watched my reaction, but this is 2 days later. I've watched the Direct multiple times with other people's reactions. And my reaction also skipped some stuff that I wasn't interested in, so I'll talk about those. But there's a couple other things that I really want to note. Given the ever-loving retro heart that I have, I'm going to naturally want to talk about the N64 and Genesis Switch Online a little bit, as well as the great and undersung announcement of Arcade Archives adding Namco games, and that will be our itinerary for today. To get fancy speak for a second. So first off, I'm gonna run through my predictions. I predicted a bunch of stuff Wednesday night before the Direct. Let's see how accurate I was. I went through and rewatched it. Here's what I said. Smash announcement. Well, we got a Smash announcement for the announcement. So I was partially right. Of course, I will be recording that as well when that happens at 7 a.m. Pacific time on October 5th. Pokemon talk. Surprisingly, no. I think Nintendo's really just decided that they're going to push their Pokemon stuff outside of Directs. Because this is the second Direct in a row where Pokemon has just not been there. I think there wasn't anything at E3 about Pokemon either. Really interesting. Splatoon 3, well, obviously. Obviously, that happened. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. The NSO, I guessed N64 and Game Boy based on a lot of the speculation and rumors that have been around, and I was half right. We got N64, but we also got the Genesis instead of the Game Boy, which was a surprise. And then Metroid. That did happen with Dread, which was almost expected. In terms of the stuff that I felt less sure on, there was no Fire Emblem, no Earthbound, but Capcom did open the Direct with some Rise DLC. We did have a bit of Zelda through Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity getting DLC, and the N64 Zeldas being shown off. And the Castlevania Advanced Collection did get announced, and we did get an extra game. It's Dracula X. Probably one of the worst ones they could have given us, but hey, at least we got it. It's a completionist dream, I guess. And all of my really out there guesses were a big fat no. So let's rewind this Direct. You watching it from here will not be having a great time, because it's gonna look like this. It's gonna not be very high quality, but I'm just gonna kind of go through it and just comment on things and then skip to the next thing, and we'll just do that, and you'll get my thoughts. So let me scoot back a little bit, and the very first thing was Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreakers, if I'm not mistaken. Sun something. Sunbreaker maybe. Honestly, I'm not here for Rise, but it's been very successful. I can't say that Capcom having a big DLC package for Rise is a surprise at this point, because it did the same thing for World twice, I want to say. So that just seems to be how Capcom rolls with Monster Hunter. So if you're a fan, I hope it's not too expensive. But it didn't do a whole lot for me. Next up, we got Mario Party. We got a confirmation on the other 3 boards and more stuff on the mini games. I had to skip a bit of this because it kept chugging, but once I did a refresh, it didn't give me any more problems. I could see the argument for why isn't this Super Mario Party DLC? Why is this an entirely new game? Why are we only getting 5 boards? There's a lot of stuff that I feel like this is not as full of an effort as it could be. And I think that's a totally fair thing. And it's one of the things that Nintendo is doing is bringing out these types of games like at a B level versus their A game. Which, you know, it's good filler material. It's good ways to kind of bridge their big stuff. But at the same time, it does feel like it's not as great as it could be. And I read that somewhere, and I feel like that's not a bad assessment of like the Mario sports games as of late, and now with the Mario Party games. Like, they're kind of like, they could be more than what they are presenting, but they're choosing to restrict content. So maybe at least this one might get DLC, since it's specifically aimed to be like a callback, but I wouldn't bet on it. So we've got this card game that Yuko Taro is working on. I am actually more interested in this because of the art, because it's my guy. I forget his name every single time. But since this is not live, I can skip ahead slightly and I can get his name right. Kimihiko Fujisaka, who did the last story artwork as well as the art in Drakengard. Love his style, absolutely love his style, and the music sounds great. Getting Okabe on it is going to just make this a stellar soundtrack because he's really good at what he does. And you know, the premise of this is really unique, and I got the demo. I haven't tried it out yet, but if the demo hooks me a little bit, I might commit to this because it's $30. It's not that expensive, and it looks really cool. Such a unique premise, and it kind of started the Square Enix's kicking butt run this direct. I forget how to pronounce Ellipsium. I think that's right, Disco Ellipsium. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. I don't pronounce that word very often. I'm really happy to see this coming to Switch. I've heard so much good stuff about it. It doesn't look like it's been too much compromised. It's kind of working well with the art style on the Switch. I'm going to probably wait for the physical though, because if for some reason I bounce off of this game, I'd like to potentially resell it, I guess. So this is great. I'm glad it got a prominent spot. And those are my thoughts. So I talked about this briefly during the reaction, but Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity did not hook me at all. I don't know what happened. It just felt different. And I've been playing Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition a lot lately. And I loved that. So I'm not really sure what happened here. Because they changed a lot of it, and just it didn't get me. And I love these characters, and I was really excited about the potential, but maybe the choice to make it like a weird timeline thing, or I don't know. There was some decisions made that just did not work for me, and it also wasn't really optimized for the Switch as well as it should have been, given it's a Switch-only game. And I think that it just didn't have, like, it locked up a lot of stuff on DLC that I felt should have been in the core game. Like, it just didn't feel complete. And I think that Hyrule Warriors was the one game that actually, like, the DLC added to it instead of feeling like that should have been there in the first place, if that makes any sense. So that didn't do a lot for me because I don't have the game anymore. Next up is Chocobo Gp. Probably one of the bigger surprises at this Direct. It's an exclusive to the Switch. And it's basically like, what if Final Fantasy met Mario Kart and Diddy Kong Racing? Because you can stack your spells. That's why I said Diddy Kong Racing. Looks really cute. It's a little bit slower than Mario Kart is, which might not be a bad thing, but it looks good. I love the art design. It looks really colorful. We'll see who else is in the game. It's a pretty standard set of your cute Final Fantasy characters so far. But this was cool. Cool little announcement. Not expected at all to see that come back. Then we got the Smash, which they made a big deal about, which they looped it back to the original announcement. So, what could that mean? Because this was the ultimate announcement trailer background, minus the Inkling looking at a couple of the characters. Could that mean that we are getting another Splatoon rep for our last character? Don't know. But it is interesting that they chose to go back to the flaming Smash logo for this. So like I said at the beginning, 10/5, 7 a.m., I'll be recording a reaction to it. It'll be fun. It's going to be a big deal because they didn't say anything about what this is beyond this being the final thing. And it's going to be 40 minutes. So that includes the announcement trailer, and that includes going through it. And then probably just like a little postscript from Sakurai about his experience working on the series. And then we've got our last Mii costumes as well. And the last ones were pretty big deals, so I think we'll get like some of those last like often discussed things happening for Mii costumes. A Kirby 3D platformer is probably the thing that it just get me re-interested in a Kirby game, because I haven't really been that interested in the series since Epic Yarn, to be completely honest. And that's kind of the same deal because it did something drastically different. And so I'm here for this, and it looks fun. It looks like a good, like, while we're waiting for a potential another Mario game, this will fill the bill really nicely, and it looks really nice. The music is awesome, and it's good to see how Lab's stretching it out a bit, doing something different. So lovely looking game. I can't wait to learn more about it. Alright, we're still on Kirby, and then we got this. We got the Animal Crossing Direct announcement, which Nintendo apparently decided this Direct was going to be announcements for things for other announcements, because it happens 3 times in this. The Roost is finally coming, but I feel like what happened is that the pandemic, while it worked out really great for Animal Crossing in terms of sales and interest, worked really hard against Nintendo in their plans to get this stuff out. I suspect that the Roost was probably going to be a year anniversary thing. It was going to come out in March originally, but they had to push it back to November because of COVID. Because the pandemic it's still affecting Japan, I think, pretty heavily in contrast to some other areas of the world. And so they had very little that they had prepared for March through November because of that. So I sold the game because I ran out of things that I was interested in doing. And I figured I could get decent credit for it now versus later. And the Roost coming in is good. And I will watch the Direct. I'm not going to probably do a reaction to it because I'm not that invested. But I will be curious to see what else is coming, because they're deliberately putting all the big Animal Crossing stuff into a direct. And it's got to be more than the Roost. It's got to be like a store upgrade. It's got to be more options to manipulate the island. There's got to be a lot more opportunities to get stuff from the game and to customize more. That's what it needs to get more and to get me back on board. Because the way the store currently is set up, it doesn't rotate enough for me to be interested. Clothing wise, kind of became the same deal. I didn't like that they removed the shoes store and turned it into a random event. And that's just my thought a year into Animal Crossing, is that there needs to be more options to get the things that you want versus waiting or visiting other people's islands. That's just my personal opinion. So, that's my thoughts on all the Animal Crossing stuff. So we got Mario Golf Super Rush update number 2 news, which is good. We're got 2 more courses, 2 more characters, and apparently there's some AI updates that were not talked about in the direct. I feel like we've got 3 new courses and 3 new characters since the DLC was being added, and I hope that there's a little bit more. Once the DLC is done, I'll probably pick this up. And then I'll see if it matches my memories of Toadstool Tour, which is still my favorite Mario sports game. So I'm just hopeful that this game becomes what it needs to be. Because I feel like, again, this is suffering from the Mario syndrome of, if it's not a mainline Mario game, so a platformer or like Paper Mario or anything like that, it's getting kind of pushed into this B-tier status of filler versus feeling like it's a full-fledged product. So, Bandai Namco is bringing Disney Magical World 2 Enchanted Edition. It doesn't look like they've updated the Miis at all. They still look like they're from the 3DS version of the game. So while it's up-resed, it doesn't look particularly good in comparison to like the work that Nintendo did with Miitopia. There are some people that were very excited about this, and I'm not taking anything away from them. It's not something that interests me at all. Much like Knights of the Old Republic coming to Switch in its 20-year-old glory. Sometimes when you see these older games get remade or brought to modern consoles, and you just see the effort put in, and there's not a lot, it's like slight up-resing and that's about it. It doesn't do a whole lot to catch people who didn't play it the first time. And that's basically what happened with this for me. Everything that Asper's done with the Star Wars games, the legacy games that they've been re-releasing, they just have not caught my eye at all. And that's okay, honestly. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just a thing. And I just don't. There's not much Star Wars can do to really catch my attention, I think, at this point. Rise of Skywalker really did a lot to foil my interest, that's for sure. Dying Light 2 is coming to the Switch via the cloud. It's done by the same team that did Control and I think Hitman 3. So, you know, as long as Control looked like it was working pretty well, I was actually pretty impressed by the demo. Triangle Strategy showed up, which I'm very happy to see. I wasn't sure if we were going to see it. It's also coming out in March, which is a lot earlier than I expected it. And I looked over the list of changes before recording this, and I'm all for it. I am very excited about this game. This was, again, Square Enix exerting their dominance over this direct, because they just kept bringing the heat, and everything that they showed off here was like, yes, 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 yes. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited about this game. It looks gorgeous. I enjoyed the demo a lot, to the point that I didn't want to play beyond the first map because I'm like, I don't want this. I want to go into this and just go. I don't want to have to redo it. Alright, Metroid Red showed up. Thankfully, they didn't really get into anything that they hadn't shown in the second trailer that they did last month. Just some different perspectives of some of the stuff they already showed. So this is a little less spoilerly. But I can't wait for Metroid Red to come out in 2 weeks. I am very excited. That's really all I could say, is that I'm very excited. It looks gorgeous. The music in the trailer was awesome, which was one of my biggest issues with Samus Returns, was that the soundtrack was kind of meh. But this one sounds great. We're gonna skip the NSO stuff to the end because I want to talk about that in more detail. Shadowrun Trilogy. I didn't know that this existed, so they said Cult Classic. I was like, what? I thought they were the Super Nintendo or the Genesis games being remade. But no, apparently they did a new Shadowrun Trilogy on PCs. I don't really care that much for the cyberpunk aesthetic, so I'll probably pass on this, but I'm sure it's exciting for some people. A Castlevania Advanced Collection is a real thing. It's good to see, and I've heard great things about the port work by M2. And they did some really cool stuff. Like, they have the GBA audio is uncompressed. That's a big deal. So that's really exciting. They also did some quality of life features. So like the DSS cards, the Circle of the Moon, you can actually like get a little icon telling you if you have it or not. And considering the RNG on that is atrocious, that's really nice. You can pick between the 3 different versions of the game. There's save states, rewind. I mean, like, it's awesome. I haven't bought it yet because I am sure Limited Run will be doing a physical because they did a whole bunch of announcements for Castlevania stuff for E3. So I kind of just want to wait till it's physical, although I do want to support Konami doing more of these, so I might just buy it twice. What a world we live in. Anyway, probably one of my favorite moments, which was followed up by probably my biggest surprise of the Direct. You're moving over here, Inkling. ActRaiser coming back. ActRaiser Renaissance. Did not see this coming at all, and it fulfills my wish for Square Enix to remember it has Enix games that it can be doing stuff with. And I love what they've done with it, honestly. I think it looks like I would want ActRaiser to look. It's got a style. It tweaks the gameplay just enough. I've heard that they've changed some of the sim elements as well, like they added some tower defense, and tweaked things, so it's not quite the same progression as it was in the original game. But I'm going to pick this up soon, and I'm really excited to see what they did and to listen to the remastered soundtrack that Yuzo Koshiro did. Because I really like ActRaiser. It was on my top 11 Super Nintendo games. So I'll probably have some impressions on it soon. And then we got Deltarune Chapter 2 coming to the Switch. I already have it. I downloaded it already. I need to figure out if I should be playing this before I play Undertale. So I guess I need to figure that out. Because I have all of it. Alright, and then we got the highlight reel. So it was Hot Wheels, Shin Megami Tensei 5, which did get a proper thing in Japan, because of course it did. Rune Factory 5, the Bandai Namco announcement, and some THQ Nordic thing I'm not going to talk about. So, and then we got Miyamoto showing up. Now, you'll notice that I didn't do this in my reaction. I skipped over this entire segment of the Mario movie with Illumination. because I don't care. I don't care at all. And when I saw that Chris Pratt was voicing Mario, my interest of not caring went to absolute apathy. The rest of the cast seems solid, but I just am not on the Chris Pratt train, and I just don't care. So I'll probably see it just out of morbid curiosity, but that's as far as it's going. Splatoon! Oh, yeah. We didn't get a more definitive date beyond 2022 still. But we did get to see that these little crab mechs are actually something that you can ride in, which is cool. And we got this we got this shield special. And we got this sticky ball, like this sticky Spider-Man-esque ink power. Which is cool looking. And the museum stage from the original Splatoon's back. And then we got a lot of solo content. And hints at clothing and stuff like that. And then there was a squid report at the end. I am very hyped for this game. And I'm probably going to want to do a deeper dive into what all this is outside of this particular episode. So maybe we'll do that when I come back on the 9th. We'll talk about what's going on in this delightful Splatoon land, and then we could also talk about Smash with that too. I think that would be a good episode to come back on. And then we had Bayonetta 3 after so long. And I do have to give props to Platinum for really making it unclear what this was. Because it said Platinum at the top, so it's like, is this Bayonetta 3? This doesn't look like Bayonetta 3. Is this Astral Chain 2? And I think that was part of the trick. Is this Astral Chain 2? It certainly wasn't Wonderful 102. This game looks hype. Bayonetta's design is awesome. I love it. It's her best design out of the 3 games, in my opinion. The kaiju battle stuff looks sweet. Combat looks great. It looks like a Platinum game. It's got their style all over it, and you can. It had a couple like frame rate skips here and there. And YouTube is just not dealing with their bit rate very well. This just has so many particles going on everywhere. But I do have to say that even though I played the original Bayonetta and I thought it was perfectly fine, I didn't get into 2. Decided I just didn't need to do that. I'm on board for this one. I am. I'm very curious to see where this game's going. And I've read some interesting fan speculation on the story, which I won't get into here, but it's really interesting. So, all in all, wonderful direct. Very little I wouldn't say there was a bad announcement in this direct whatsoever. The most underwhelming thing for me was probably the Disney game, only because it's not really tailored for what I'm interested in, and it didn't really look that good. In terms of optimization from 3DS to Switch, and we've seen games be able to do that fairly well. Miitopia looks pretty good considering it's a 3DS port. Alliance Alive HD looks pretty good despite it's a 3DS port, but I just didn't get that same vibe from the Disney game. But that's all right. So we're going to take a little pause here, and when we come back, we're going to run through NSO Genesis and Namco Cross Hamster. Nintendo announced the expansion pack, which is a cute nod to the Nintendo 64 in their expansion pack. And we've got N64 and Genesis games coming to this new plan. Pricing was not announced. The date is late October as of right now, and they're going to reveal more details later, probably through Twitter. The initial lineup includes that game you paid $60 for. Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Yoshi's Story, Sin and Punishment, Zelda Ocarina of Time, and Mario Tennis, all of which have appeared on a Virtual Console before. But we've got two brand new experiences to the virtual Nintendo format, and that's Koei's Winback Covert Operations, as well as Dr. Mario 64. Japan is not getting Dr. Mario 64 because it did not actually come out there. It did not get released until Nintendo Puzzle Collection on the GameCube in Japan. So they're getting two custom Robo games that we did not receive here. So the continued region-specific stuff is happening. But Sin and Punishment being here is great, so maybe we'll get custom Robo too, depending on the text. They also, after the Direct, made a North American Sin and Punishment box that's going to be for the service. There's more coming to the N64, but since I'm doing this in order, let's look at the Genesis lineup. So, Genesis also appeared on the Wii Virtual Console, but there's quite a few games here that didn't make it to that. So games that we have seen before is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, Echo the Dolphin, Golden Axe, Gunstar Heroes, Phantasy Star 4, Riz Star, Shining Force, Shinobi 3, Sonic 2, Streets of Rage 2, and Strider. But we've got three games on here that did not make it to the Genesis before. Two of which are a bit of a surprise that they're here, given that Konami is selling them on compilations on the system. But that's Castlevania Bloodlines and Contra Hardcore. And then we also got Musha. Musha was one of the big misses of the Genesis Mini lineup. And if I remember correctly, Sega actually wanted to include it, but they weren't sure who owned the rights, and they couldn't figure it out by the time the system came out. But apparently they did resolve that, and it's now here on the Switch, which is fantastic. And getting the Konami games is a good sign that maybe we'll get more stuff from them, like Rocket Knight Adventures. Strider also being here indicates that Capcom will be a little bit more involved, maybe. But Capcom didn't do a ton on the Genesis in contrast to the Super Nintendo, so this is not as big of a shocker or surprise as it could be. But Musha being here is great, and I hope that we'll see some more stuff. In terms of Japan, there wasn't any differences on this lineup other than this being Puyo Puyo like it should be, which is Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. We didn't get any future Genesis content, but we did get future N64 content, which includes Going Too Fast, Zelda, Majora's Mask, Mario Golf, Pokemon Snap, F-Zero X, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, Paper Mario, and Banjo-Kazooie. They have worked it out with Microsoft to have Rare's N64 games coming to this service. If you wanted any greater reason why this is going to cost more, there you go. It's because Nintendo's putting some effort in and actually making the N64 service the fullest it potentially could be since the N64 itself came out. Because the Wii and Wii U offerings of the N64 did not get into Rare's content outside of Donkey Kong 64 on the Wii U. And Rare and the Nintendo 64 were just a huge part of the legacy of that system. So the fact that Banjo's here is a wonderful sign of future things to come. I don't know if we're going to get M-rated games on the service, but I would love it if Perfect Dark showed up. That would make my day. And if it had online multiplayer, even compromised N64 version, that would make me so happy. Because we are getting online stuff for the multiplayer games. So Mario Kart 64, Star Fox 64, Dr. Mario 64, Mario Tennis. All of those will have 4-player, from my understanding. Sin and Punishment, I think, is only 1 player. But then we have F-Zero X and Mario Golf. So those will be there. But there's a lot of potential. We could get Donkey Kong 64 again. Diddy Kong Racing we can get Conker. If we get Perfect Dark, we're going to get Conker. We can get Banjo-Tooie. We could get Blast Corps. We can get Jet Force Gemini. Just a lot of great stuff. And then there's a lot of things that that aren't shown, like Wave Race 64 and 1080 snowboarding and Excite Bike 64. Ogre Battle 64 could, if Square Enix cooperates, show up, because it's shown up in the past on both the Wii and the Wii U virtual consoles. So I am pretty excited about this, and given some of the third parties involved with NSO currently, I mean, maybe we'll get Harvest Moon 64 again. That would be cool. Maybe we'll get like Flying Dragon from Culture Brain Excel. And maybe we'll get the Castlevania games from Konami. Hybrid Heaven, International Superstar Soccer. That would make my day. Which was not licensed. So all they'd have to do is tweak the box arts to remove the stars that they put on there, and they'd be good to go. Or just the original game, which has no star on it at all. We could get Deadly Arts. There's so much potential about this that I'm very excited about it happening. And we also got confirmation that the NES and Super Nintendo offerings are not dying either. They will continue to see releases, which is good. We need to get more content than every couple months and getting like 2 or 3 games. We have the potential here to do so much more with 4 consoles. And given that the N64 happened the way that it basically happened, I think the Game Boy rumors are on point, because pretty much everything that I heard about the N64 came to pass. That we were going to get online, we were going to get a new plan for it. That's going to be a different pricing tier. I think that it makes absolute sense for the Game Boy to show up, and probably they could probably scoot that to the regular, because I don't see the licensing being as much of an issue for that like it is for this. Like I said, Banjo is here. Banjo is here, therefore it makes sense why they've, and it's also more work because it's also 4-player online. So I understand the justification. And the Genesis, that's not Nintendo's. It's Sega's. They licensed it from Sega. So it all makes sense, like why they did what they did. People might not like it, and I can understand people being upset about having to pay more for these games, but I can understand the business side of it a little bit. All right, let's move to the other big thing that most people just either skipped over or were like, what's Hamster? I'm gonna tell you what Hamster is. Hamster Corporation is the company that creates Arcade Archives. They are the ones that have been releasing a retro game every single week since the Switch's launch. They have not skipped a week, to my knowledge. They have either released a Neo Geo or an arcade game every week since the Switch launched. And they are now working with Namco. Pac-Man and Xevious are the first two games. This is enormous news for arcade fans because Namco has not worked with Hamster. Namco has released one Namco Museum collection of their stuff from the arcade for the Switch, and that's it. Which happens to include Pac-Man. I think Xevious too, but I'm not 100% sure. And this is enormous news because Namco has so many arcade games, and Hamster is more than happy to release obscure stuff from companies. So we're gonna see things from Namco that we haven't seen since the PS1 Namco Museum games. We're gonna see like Legend of Valkyrie, we're gonna see Baraduke, we're gonna see Metrocross, we're gonna see Geiji and the Heike clans. We're gonna see so many cool games that Namco has not re-released in years, decades, because of Hamster. Because they will do it. They will gleefully do it. So this is extremely exciting news for anyone who loves retro arcade games. I can't say I'm going to buy these two because I have them in other forms, but like I will buy Legend of Valkyrie, I will buy Baraduke, I will buy the obscure stuff that we don't see all the time. So this is wonderful. This is absolutely delightful news. And just kudos to Hamster for keeping going. Because they've done some incredible work in bringing some really cool stuff out onto the Switch. From Irem, from Konami, from Technos Japan, aka Arc System Works now, but Taito and Jalico and Nitsubishu and Nintendo. Like, Nintendo's arcade games came out because of Hamster. Okay? That's why it's a big deal, because Hamster gets it. And they do good work. They do really good work. There's companies that I forgot, like Data East and the company that makes Raiden. I can't remember their name. And UPL and a couple others. But this is fantastic. This is fantastic news. If you want Namco arcade games and have been upset at the Museum series for decades for never replicating what they did on the PS1, Hamster's got your back. Okay, that's all of the direct stuff I had, but I also have a pickup. So I got S.C.A.T, or as I'm sure Natsume would prefer to refer to it, S.C.A.T, Special Cybernetic Attack Team. So I ordered both this and Shadow of the Ninja. Shadow of the Ninja's on its way. They shipped it differently. I have no idea why. But I got this one first. I got these from Limited Run, and I got these for Femtendo because at that time when I ordered them, I was going to have both the North American and the Japanese versions of the games in the book, and then I realized how much that would cost. So I decided, no, I don't want to actually do that. I'm just going to go from the area the game originated from. But I couldn't cancel these, so here they are in my collection. And they come in their own limited run case. There's a reprint of the manual, updated with limited run stuff. It's pretty basic, but it's a reprint of what Natsume did, and then here's the game, and it works. And I got the green edition because I wanted to just really emphasize the fact that this is not an original card. So this will join Metal Storm in my reproduction list of NES games, as will Shadow of the Ninja, which I will show off in the next episode because I'll have it by the time October 9th rolls around. And it might still end up in Femtendo because of Sigourney back here. So we'll see. See what my mood feels like when 1990 rolls around and I have to cover those. The Japanese version is called Final Mission and is worth a lot. So I want to say that carts go for over 100. Same deal with Shadow the Ninja. So I might make an executive decision there. We'll see. We will see. Anyway, that's the end of this Levels Plus weekly episode. As I said earlier, I'm going to take next week off. I've got some stuff going on, and trying to cram an episode in there is just not going to be good for my emotional or mental health, so I'm skipping it. But on October 9th, I think going over the Splatoon stuff and talking about the Smash Direct will probably be the order of the day. So look forward to that. We will see you in a couple weeks. Thank you so much for watching. Please take care. But this game I have no interest in, nor do I have any interest in the regular, normal game of the first. Wow, that was a horrible sentence.